Just here?
What is an art museum?
What is an art museum?
It's a very simple question to ask for, but not to answer.
It's such a fascinating question because it can be so many things to so many people.
It implies the collection of very special items to advance knowledge, to preserve things that people should not forget about.
And that facilitate that important connection through programs that make the collections that we hold in trust accessible.
The art museum is the holder of the community's treasures.
I think of an art museum as an energy source.
It's so exciting to see people come in and discover something new about somebody else or someone else's culture.
I mean, we are talking about the greatest creations that us as human beings have been able to create.
They symbolize what our values are as a people.
They are dynamic places, and they are kind of evolving as the culture evolves.
We think of ourselves as educational institutions, but the education happens in a very different kind of way. It's as much experiential as it is cognitive.
I see art museums as social enterprises. Most people go to an art museum with someone else.
It can be something as simple as, I like that, that makes my day. Or it can somehow be a portal that links you with a fundamental human experience.
It's a cultural meeting place. It's an activist organization that can go out and really help to change the world.
It's a place of delight. It's a place of imagination.
A place for rumination, for thought, for being alone with a work of art, or joining with other people in it.
It should be a place of assembly for everyone.
We want to be a destination, we want to be an educational center, and we want to be a place of inspiration.
I have always thought of a museum as an organism, not an edifice, a place that is responsive, growing, and not fixed.
It's also a place where democracy can play out in all its messiness, where art can be a springboard for talking about all the things that matter to us in our world now, whether the art we show is 1,000 years old or was made yesterday.
Museums are these pause buttons, these spaces where we can think freely, imagine freely, dream freely.
With the place where the next generation could learn about the rest of the world.
They're places of great empathy, of understanding, and just of joy and magic.
It is a set. It's a stage.
It's online. It's on site.
It's our collective memory.
It's a place that sort of sets you free. You can wander, you can find what you are interested in, find something you never knew about.
It could simply say, by its very presence, that human beings, as long as we have been humans, have created, and connected to that creation is the ability to tell our stories. That's what I think a museum does when it's doing its work well. It's telling stories.
What I love about art museums is there's so many different kinds.
I work for an encyclopedic museum.
We're a college museum.
We focus on a single object.
I work for a museum which is dedicated to the art of our time.
My museum is primarily an archaeological museum, and so we have around 50 excavations happening all over the world.
As an art museum person, you always think within 500 years time frames.
There's the collecting, there's the conservation, there's the preservation.
There's research. Our curators are hard at work on future projects.
One area where art museums may be a little unique is we're with you through your whole life.
Baby tours, toddler tours. We had a mystery murder. I was part of it. It was hilarious.
The numbers of yellow buses that line up outside our building every day is extraordinary.
You will see artists making art or working with our staff.
You might see kids in our digital studio or our art lab.
You would find a group of people who have decided that the way in which they want to engage in public service for our community is through art.
It's always about the teaching moment, and this can happen at any level, at any time.
When your 5-year-old says, I saw this or that, and I can tell you about it, it's very, very powerful notions.
I mean, nothing pleases me more when people come into a museum, young people, and to have them be surprised that it's much more interesting than they had expected.
Our museum's fairly noisy, actually. People talk, and they reminisce, and they share experiences.
My greatest interest is in the whole moment of wonder. There's that magic moment when their jaw drops and their brain pops.
You put a sculpture in the middle of the room and everyone's going to look at it differently. Meaning is fluid and should be.
What we try to provoke precisely is the common things that we all share. Emotions, fears, satisfaction, harmony, pleasure.
When you look at the totality of our experience, it spurs creativity, engenders empathy, it teaches people how to communicate in verbal and non-verbal ways. I mean, these are the things that people will need in the future.
Art museums are for everyone.
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 Everybody.
All people, everywhere. All ages, everyone.
There isn't a single person you cannot touch through art. Art is the most universal of all languages.
It serves the public, and I think it produces the public in a lot of ways.
The art is the value proposition there, but people make the experience happen.
It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to change a community. Not only physically changing the cultural landscape of community, but also its self-awareness, its self-esteem.
I like to call our museum an anchor institution in the city. A strong, healthy, vibrant city really needs to have an art museum that can capture the essence of the city and the energy and enthusiasm of the people.
We're not just a repository. We're not just full of things. It's really all about how we share those things with our communities.
When I'm walking around the streets of Harlem, I live right near the museum, people will say to me, "Oh, I'm going to your museum today." And I'll say to them, "It's not my museum, it's your museum. I'm just taking care of it."
I think today more than ever we need to find reasons to come together, to find shared moments, to bring difficult conversations into a safe place. And we do it through art.
An art museum today is a toolbox that audiences use to become citizens rather than consumers, producers rather than consumers. And I think it's a place that fundamentally teaches curiosity, empathy, and wonder. And in so doing is, I think, the hope for humankind.
It's a very exciting moment to be thinking about these things and the way that museums can increase their footprint and impact in ways other than spatially.
In these times, assumptions about the value of the liberal arts are kind of eroding. Museums have this really important role to play in kind of pushing back. They're incredibly necessary right now.
Society is going through such radical change. We're a shrinking world in which understanding is so important. So I think museums can play a really critical role in helping people to understand themselves, to have insight and understanding of the present, and to think collectively about the future.